Introduce us to Mr. Ternus. What does your reporting tell us about his new workload and also that signal that he's climbing the ranks here?
John Ternus has been Apple's senior VP of hardware engineering since 2021. That means he runs all hardware development for essentially every Apple product. He's in charge of the iPhone, in charge of the iPad, in charge of the Mac, now in charge of the Apple Watch. And he's been elevated to expand his role this year a couple times, taking, like I said, full oversight of the Apple Watch, but also taking charge of Apple's AI robotics teams. Now, very recently, Tim Cook put him in charge of overseeing Apple's design teams for both hardware and software. Now, design is the look and feel of the products, what the interface looks like, what the icons look like, how the software works. Industrial design are things like the shapes of the devices, the colors, the weight, and the feel. Goes well beyond the engineering of making everything work. And like you said, design is one of the most critical and prestigious functions at Apple. It's really only been run by the most senior executives in the company's history, people like Johnny Ive, Steve Jobs himself, Tim Cook himself, and the COO, Jeff Williams, who retired a few months ago. Now, John Ternus adds to that list, and it's yet another strong indicator that he's being groomed for a larger role and is at the very top of the short list of frontrunners of potential Tim Cook successors at one point when Cook ultimately does decide to retire.
Mark, what's interesting is how subtly this was done. And I'm sure that's because they don't want to aggravate too much the investor base, but also those also in the running. Talk about who else we could see being lined up in some way.
This is a very strange setup organizationally. The design teams are overseen by Turnis, but on paper, they report to CEO Tim Cook. Various reasons why you'd want to do that. Apple previously announced that Cook would be running the design team, so you don't want to take that away from him publicly and undermine the CEO. You don't want to get into a debate about who's better suited to run design, whether that's an engineer or an operations person like Cook. In terms of other CEO candidates, there's really only one other at this point. That's Sabi Khan, the chief operating officer. Other publications have thrown out names like Eddie Q, Greg Joswiak, Greg Federighi, Deirdre O'Brien. Nothing I've heard points to any of them being CEO other than maybe in an emergency-like scenario. It's really Turnis or the new COO, Sabi Khan.
Mark, we have 10 seconds. What's the one product that Turnis is going to be zeroed in on this year?
This year, it's got to be the foldable iPhone. This is going to be a potential growth driver for company revenue, and we'll see him front and center for that in September.